The top 5 things funeral directors do not want you to know. Hold tight. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to be notified so you can know what you don't supposed to, what you, the cremation thing. Let's talk about that. The elephant in the room, cremation. Funeral professionals for the longest time haven't embraced it. Why? Because it's more affordable, meaning less profit overall for the funeral home establishment. Now, funeral homes are for profit. Let's be very transparent. There's nothing wrong with that because that's called capitalism. And you buy shoes and you buy clothes and you buy things you don't need. So there you go. Cremation, though, is on the rise, and funeral homes specifically have had such a hard time offsetting and making profit from cremation services. So how do you, because let me backtrack, the great thing about it, the heart of a funeral professional is building value in ceremony. There is something to be said about celebrating people. Yes, because people, we have lived a life, we've done great things and deserve to be celebrated no matter how. That is what funeral professionals believe in, and they've devoted their lives to that. Where they have lost sight is the fact that maybe you just want something simple, and cremation is that for so many people. So how do you combat that? The funeral profession as a whole is having a tough time, and because of that, that's why it's got a bad rap. Cremation is on the rise, but there is this whole thing of supply, demand, supply, demand. Yes, if you want to have a cremation, you're going to save some money, and funeral professionals need to pivot because this profession is filled with very incredible people, but you don't have to be a business person to be in the funeral profession. People die. So, yes. And the next thing is, speaking to cremation, did you know that there are companies that profit off of our loved ones' metal devices that are taken out either before or post cremation? Yep. Like, for instance, a pacemaker. That thing will explode in a crematory. So it's to be taken out prior to the cremation. Now, since it's right under the skin and part of your cremation authorization form that the family signs off, they do permit that to be done. It's put off to the side along with, after the cremation takes place, you have your hip bones, your knee bones, your hip replacement, all the metal set off to the side, and there are companies that profit off that, and they turn those into street signs, car parts, other medical devices. Yeah. So if you want to, in another life, be something, well, you wouldn't necessarily, but something that was in you or your loved one's body could be a pedestrian crossing sign. Yeah. And funeral homes that partner with these companies do get kickbacks from that, whether it be more equipment or more supplies for the crematory at a discounted price. Yes, it's a real thing. It's not a bad thing because it's better than them just going and filling up a landfill, right? Recycle. Now, there's nothing. Remember that song as a kid? No? Maybe? Okay. That's totally fine. Number 3, did you know that caskets, you could buy at a discount? Yeah. My partnership with Titan Casket Company, I'll link it right here. You can save 50% on caskets. There are discounted caskets that look just as good, if not better, than your larger, more expensive priced caskets that are sold by the big companies. Funeral homes have to accept a third-party casket. Yes, so if you even want to go into your wood shop and build you your own casket, that funeral home must accept that casket. Now, what they can't do is they can't warranty that casket, meaning, simply put, if you've partnered with a Batesville or a Matthews Aurora, you carry their warranty because of the craftsmanship. Now, if Joe Schmo wants to build their casket and something is to happen during that visitation, the funeral home's not liable, meaning casket falls through. They're not liable. It's not their fault. But click the link, fill that 50% discount. It's real. And yes, at the time of death, you can send the casket to the funeral home and they must accept it. Another thing, did you know that if you want like a green burial or buried underneath a tree, if you will, it's this whole idea that funeral homes are trying to say, hey, you don't want to mess up the root system, so you must go 4 feet outside of. It's their way of maybe creating a go to this cemetery if they own the cemetery. I don't know so much about that and reading it. My point is if you want to have a tree buried, planted over top of your casket after you're buried, that's great and all, because the root system will grow around the casket itself. Again, I don't necessarily give into that whole idea. You can actually be put into a pod under a tree and turn into a tree too. There's so many things that you can do at a more affordable price. Keep that in mind when you're thinking about all of the different options available to you. And last but not least, do not get this confused, because it's not that funeral directors don't want you to know this, but legally, when you die, your body must be, the word is disposition, so disposed of through a licensed funeral home establishment in the state in which you die, meaning you must be either buried, your full body, in a casket at a cemetery, or cremated at a licensed crematory. There are no options outside of those. You have to go through the funeral home. That's what I basically mean. Now, what funeral homes don't want is this whole idea of you having your own service. So let's say you do choose cremation and you just want to have a potluck at your house. The cremated remains do not require the funeral home to even be present. So you can save thousands of dollars having your own memorial. Now, why do funeral homes not want that? Well, because they exist to celebrate. They exist. You can look at it from a monetary standpoint and think funeral homes are just money hungry. They exist because, yes, they are for profit, but these people that work there really give a shit and care about creating a celebration worthy for you. So, of course they don't want you to have your own outside, because they want to be a part of it. They're selfish. We're selfish in the fact that we want you so badly to be celebrated, whether it's something simplistic or elaborate. Maybe it's the potluck at the funeral home. That's why the four walls exist. So these whole secrets that funeral directors don't want you to know, they just want to be a part of it. That's why they don't want you to know. They don't want you to go off in the park over there and have a balloon release. One, because the balloons will pop and they're getting ducks' mouths, and that's really sad. You seen those videos? And two, it's just because they went to school to make sure that you know that they have devoted their lives to you and yours and all those that you love. Funeral professionals have a really bad rap and bad name. And if you turn it all the way backwards and go all the way back, it's kind of the fault of the people, because slowly but surely it started in the house. The family did everything. They prepared the loved ones. They dressed them. Did you know that you all used to make your own clothes? Literally, like your clothes, you oftentimes made not only your wedding gown and wedding attire, but your funeral attire from the same garments at the same time. And not to mention, in childbirth, they knew, the women specifically, they knew a long time ago that, man, we quite possibly could die during childbirth. So they went ahead and planned everything, oftentimes putting their death clothes underneath their beds. Yes, and the families did everything. And then the tradesperson brought in the coffin. Okay, but the tradesperson ended up embalming the body. And then the tradesperson ended up, that was after the Civil War, ended up putting the body in the coffin and getting everything ready, and then taking them from the parlor of the house, which the living room, the parlor, and taking them to their funeral parlor, because the family started asking for help. And then the trade ended up becoming a license that was recognized, and then it became this big ordeal. And then we totally had we had everything. We had all of the service on our hands, and our responsibility, and the families just slowly gave it all up. So the professional, it became a requirement, because families, they became detached from and wanted to grieve as a family and not participate in the preparation of. And the funeral profession is doing a great job, in my opinion, in attempting to give back that responsibility and say, hey, help us with this. Help us do mom's hair. Help us do the makeup. Help us paint the nails. Help us pick out the songs. Help us pick out the readings for the service. What color flowers? Help us arrange that. It's not the professional's fault. The profession was created because the families needed it, because they stopped wanting to have to do everything themselves. There's something beautiful about something done in cooperation. There's something beautiful about having hands-on approach with the grieving process. It's helpful and healthy. The profession cares. They really care. I think the profession, they don't want you to know that things are for profit because they don't want you to get a skewed view of them. I'm sure there are bad apples. There are in every bunch, but one ruins it and it sucks. But the profession as a whole, they care so very, very much. And they don't want you to know so much and be focused so much on the for-profit aspect. Maybe it's that. Cremation, yeah, because that's $3,000 and a full funeral is $10,000. Where did they get that an average funeral is $8,000? You all have control over the casket you select. You all have control over all the merchandise aspect. The services, they're set in price because of the general price list. Nonetheless, recycle. Be sure to follow. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified whenever new content exclusive here on YouTube is dropped. Let me know in the comments below some thought, question that you have about the funeral profession. We'll do our best to answer that question. Sure is a creepy place, it can be. Sure is a haunted place, I don't know. Sure is a beautiful place, yes. Filled with incredible people who care about you and yours and have devoted their lives to doing so. All right, now you know.